following a narrow victory over populist candidate Rodolfo Hernandez. Petro has promised to democratize unproductive private land, to redistribute private pensions, and to halt new oil and gas production. He insists that he will not outright expropriate land, but that the government will hike taxes on land holdings that it considers unproductive, and that if the owner can't pay, he will forfeit it to the government. In Caracas, Nicolas Maduro, whose Marxist dictatorship has ruined Venezuela, duly announced that a new era was starting in the neighboring country. Colombia is now finally firmly in the revolutionary orbit, ready to be an ally to China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, and all other enemies, end quote. This is certainly not good news for freedom in our own hemisphere, a whole continent heading for oppressive far-left governments. This is John McClory. Thanks for listening.
Blush Hill Country Club, a 9-hole course conveniently located off Interstate 89 in Waterbury, has continuously provided golfers in central Vermont with scenic and challenging golf since 1941. Normal green fee rates are $22 for 9 holes and $35 for 18 holes. Blush Hill continues to have discounted golf days on Mondays and Tuesdays all day and Saturday from 10 to 2. The rate for those days is $12 for 9 holes and $24 for 18 holes. Everyone is welcome at Blush Hill. You don't have to be a member to golf or sit on the deck and enjoy your favorite beverage while taking in the views of the Worcester Range. Contact Blush Hill Country Club today at 244-8974 for tee times or to inquire about membership rates, tournaments, or to book their clubhouse for your event. Go to blushhillcountryclub.com for other offers. That's blushhillcountryclub.com. Northfield Savings Bank is proud to sponsor WDEV at 90. Whether you're a builder, a maker, or a doer, at Northfield Savings Bank, we are proud to be the bank for Vermonters and Vermont businesses. Find out more about us at nsbvt.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Here's the pitch. Swinging a line drive left field. It's going to get down for a base hit. Hits on the grass. It rolls through to the Mason sign. A run scores. Story on his way to second. Going to be close. And he's safe.
Boston Red Sox baseball on WDEV is brought to you by Mackenzie Country Classics, R.K. Miles, Rich Jacobs, the Edward Jones Financial Advisor in Morrisville, Gifford Medical Center, and Waterbury Sports. Your home for Boston Red Sox baseball is WDEV.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The teams you care about.
Mac Jones is good. That's not the question. The question is he good enough to win repeatedly in this loaded AFC?
The stories that matter to you.
If I'm Xander Bogaerts, I need 3 things in order to get over that insulting contract offer.
This is your home for New England sports.
Jason Tatum, superstar. Book it.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Brady Farkas Show right here on a Tuesday on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Short show today. We're up until 6:10. It's 40 minutes. Here with us tonight, another edition of Red Sox baseball. Sox looking to even up their series against the Rays after losing last night. It's Chris Sale Day down at Tropicana Field. We'll talk about that with Buster Olney. Yeah, Buster always with us on a Thursday. But last week he had to be with us on Friday. This week he's got to be with us on Tuesday. So our schedules are all kind of screwed up, but I'm never going to be mad about talking to Buster Olney. We'll talk about Brian Bayo. We'll talk about Chris Sale. We'll talk about Rafael Devers. And if we're concerned about his back, Buster will be with us here in about 15 minutes. We do have 2 breaking news stories that are not huge, but they're certainly interesting and they're talk-worthy, and we're going to spend more time on them tomorrow. The first breaking news story is that the Patriots have traded wide receiver and first-round draft pick from a few years ago, N'Keal Harry. They have traded him to the Chicago Bears for a 7th-round pick in 2024. That is how far N'Keal Harry's stock has fallen. I'm not mad that the Patriots traded him. I'm not mad that the Patriots traded him for essentially a bag of footballs, it was the right move. N'Keal Harry was not going to make this team. N'Keal Harry was not going to be on the Patriots no matter what. The fact that they got something for him, period, at this point is a win. Again, we'll spend more time on Harry tomorrow and all that went wrong and all this and all that. But this is the Patriots were now lucky to get a 7th-round pick a couple of years down the road. That's it. A total wild card, absolute wild card. N'Keal Harry was worth nothing to them. He was going to get cut. So I'm not mad that this is what the return was, because they were lucky to have any return at all. The second one is a more local sports story. We have confirmed here at WDEV that UVM men's basketball's first home game of the year is going to be against Brown University out of the Ivy League. Now, they played Brown last year at their place. Why you should care about this is, one, it's just nice to know pockets of the UVM schedule. It's nice to know who's coming to Patrick Gym. Secondly, it's going to be a return back to Catamount Country for TJ Sorrentine. He's an associate head coach at Brown. That game is going to be electric. The home opener, TJ back in town. He hasn't been back in town for a regular season game, I believe, since he left. Someone can go quote me on that, but certainly in the time I've been here, Brown has not played a regular season game at Patrick Gym. They played an exhibition game a couple of years ago when TJ and Taylor Compenrath got their numbers retired, but a regular season game, TJ Sorrentine back in Catamount Country in the home opener against UVM. We have confirmed that here at WDEV, so we'll talk more about that tomorrow as well. You can get in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026, your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and in Morrisville, and Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and my Twitter account as well.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show were brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center. Locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. I want to start the show talking about the Red Sox, but not talking about their loss last night. Once again, I want to start the show by defending Chaim Bloom, because this seems to be apparently one of my newest side gigs, defending Chaim Bloom from all of your slander. So let's line them up. What are people saying today about Chaim Bloom? This is from Chris Gasper, apparently, of NBC Sports Boston. Oh, he said this the other day, I'm told in my ears. Here's what Gasper said.
It's a lot of internal replacements, and they rely on the stars of the team to really be the manager and the general manager and the system. They feel like they're going to figure it out internally. They'll find a fix for first base. They'll keep running Rob Refsnyder out there. He's been red hot of late. They're going to keep doing this sort of roster roulette. I don't anticipate them making a ton of huge additions here, because I think this is what ultimately what they want to do. They want to sort of have this facade of being a legitimate competitor and make the playoffs, and that's enough while they don't really expend resources and they can clear payroll in the offseason and get to some of the young prospects and do what they really want to do.
Chris Gasper's point is what? Seriously, what is his point? His point is that the Red Sox are not willing to go all in, right? He seems to think the team is wrong to play guys who have proven to be useful, like Rob Refsnyder. He seems to think the Red Sox won't be big players at the trade deadline because they just kind of want to limp to the offseason and get cheaper and younger. That seems to be Chris Gasper's point. And my question is, what is wrong with most of what Chris Gasper just said? If all of what he said is true, what exactly is wrong with most of that? We have said all along, right? Listen to what I'm about to say. We have said this all along. We want the Red Sox to become the Dodgers. We want the Red Sox to become the Astros. What are those teams? They are teams that win repeatedly. They are teams that are contenders every year. In order to be a contender every year, you have to create waves of young talent, and you have to build that young talent, and you have to be able to have those internal answers. You cannot come up with that plan. You cannot become that organization if you are going to be undisciplined and just fire off every trade deadline deal possible. Everybody is enamored with this idea of going all in. Everyone is enamored with going all in. Well, going all in involves putting your chips, all of them, in the center of the table and blowing out the farm system. I don't want the Red Sox to do that, and you shouldn't either. I want them to become the Dodgers, the Astros, the Cardinals, teams that are habitually good. I don't want the Red Sox to become undisciplined. I don't want them to be crazy in what they do. I believe, and I have said this for months, the Red Sox big plan should be build up the farm system, create young players that will help you, and young players that you can then trade away. Once you get a surplus of young players, then you can start dealing them away, but you can't deal all of them away from what is just a base, from what is just a foundation. When you get a surplus, then you can start siphoning off the big members of the farm system because it doesn't kill you. But do you remember? You all talk about going all in. Chris Gasper says they want to get cheaper. They want to get younger. They won't go all in. Do you remember the Pittsburgh Pirates from a few years ago? And I'm going to ask Buster about this. The Pirates a few years ago, they took a shot. They went all in. They put their chips in the center of the table. They went for it. They traded for Chris Archer of the Rays, who at the time was an ace. And you know what they gave up? Tyler Glasnow, one of the best young pitchers in the game. Austin Meadows, a guy who hit 30 homers. And Shane Baz, one of the most electric young arms in the game now, too. The Pirates killed themselves in that deal. They mortgaged their future for the now, and they got beat both that year and every year since. I remember when my Mariners traded Derek Lowe and Jason Varitek, guys that would be foundational pieces for the Red Sox, for what? A deadline rental of Heathcliff Slocum. I remember, I'm old enough to remember the ridicule the Mets got for trading Scott Kazmir for Victor Zambrano. Everybody loves this idea of going all in, but sometimes the best thing to do is just to stick. Do you really want the Red Sox to make a Pirates-style deal and mortgage off the farm system for a one-off? Because I don't. The Red Sox do not have a surplus right now. When they get a surplus, they can make a Pirate-style deal. But right now, they'd be mortgaging everything because they just don't have that much to give. I don't want to do that. And frankly, it wouldn't be smart to do that. Look at where the Red Sox are right now. Nathan Eovaldi, J.D. Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Kike Hernandez, Michael Wacha, Rich Hill, Christian Vasquez, Matt Strahm, Kevin Plawecki, Rob Refsnyder. Do you know what they all have in common? Every single one of them? They are all free agents at the end of the year. Every single one of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players on your big league roster are free agents at the end of the year. You better have some answers in your farm system. You better have some replacements in your farm system because you are not signing all of them again, and you are not finding significant upgrades for every single one of them on the free agent market next winter. So you better keep your farm system, a lot of it, intact. It's like, what are we, the Chris Gaspers of the world, I ask, what are we doing here? I believe the Red Sox need to get better. I believe there are moves to be made. I believe this team deserves to be invested in. But what exactly do you want them to go out and do? Go trade the world for a closer? Go trade the world for another outfielder? That's just not prudent. You may lose all of those guys next year. Keep your depth intact. Go get players that can help. They are out there, and they won't cost you everything you've helped build. I'd make a phone call on 37-year-old Cubs closer David Robertson. I'd call on Josh Bell like I told you at first base. I'd call on Trey Mancini, but I wouldn't massively overpay for these guys. Going all in, it comes with a cost. And it is a cost that the Red Sox cannot afford. This is not simply just the Red Sox are being cheap and trying to hoard cheap labor. They are trying to build a pipeline that is sustainably strong and that makes you sustainably good. Sustainability has been the buzzword for Chaim Bloom since day one, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. It makes sense. I don't want to be the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hey, we're going to trade all of our prospect depth for this guy. We're going to get screwed this year. Then we're going to lose all these free agents. And now we've traded away all the answers to the farm system. That's not a good place to be in. They don't need, this team doesn't seem, you all seem to think the Red Sox need to make 15 huge moves. They need to make a couple of little ones. Josh Bell is the big move that I would make. I'll ask Buster momentarily what he thinks his asking price is, but that's the guy that I want to, that maybe I'd be willing to part with something of real value for. But I'm not willing to overpay for anybody. I am not willing to overpay for anybody. Real quick, let's hear what Dan Shaughnessy had to say about this whole thing.
The illusion of contention, we call this. Today's all-star team was announced. Benintendi's on there, Betts is on there, Schwarber's on there. 3 guys you wouldn't pay are all-stars. The guys that are your all-stars, you're not going to pay, and you're going to lose both of them.
Yeah, that to me is preposterous. The Betts point is fair. I'll admit that. That whole thing was a cluster. The organization botched that, but come on. Benintendi is on the same deal with the Royals that the Red Sox gave him. So it's not like the Royals paid him and the Red Sox wouldn't. It's the same deal that the Red Sox gave Benintendi. And he didn't deserve the big money. You act like he did. He hit 266 in 2019 with 13 homers. He's essentially Alex Verdugo. He played 14 games in the COVID 2020 season, hit 103, and was injured the entire year. And now he's only an all-star because every team gets an all-star. Benintendi has 3 homers. He hits for no power. He's an all-star because the Royals are forced into having an all-star. And as far as Schwarber goes, we can quibble about whether or not they should have kept him, but don't act like they don't pay. They signed Trevor Story to a deal that's twice as much money practically as Schwarber. They gave Story more years and $60 million more. $70 million more maybe than the Phillies gave Schwarber. So let's not act like they don't pay, that they don't pay for good talent. They paid Story. Look, let's go to Buster Olney. In fact, I'm going to start this show here. I'm going to start the Buster interview with this clip. Can we call back up the Shaughnessy clip again here? And we have Buster on the line? Okay, good. ESPN MLB insider Buster Olney is with us now for a rare Tuesday edition of his weekly interview. Buster, I hope you are well. I am all hopped up right now on the Chris Gasper stuff and the Dan Shaughnessy stuff. Did you hear what Shaughnessy said? Oh, he didn't hear that yet? Okay, we'll play it for him again.
The illusion of contention, we call this. Today's all-star team was announced. Benintendi's on there, Betts is on there, Schwarber's on there. 3 guys you wouldn't pay are all-stars. The guys that are your all-stars, you're not going to pay, and you're going to lose both of them.
What do you make of Shaughnessy's comments there? I'm not as harsh as he is. Benintendi is on the contract the Red Sox gave him. Schwarber, I get, Betts is the one that I'm mad about. Schwarber, I get letting him walk. Shaughnessy just seems like he's being harsh to be harsh. What do you think?
It's funny. I actually have heard that from folks, from other people in the game as well, that their question is, under Chaim Bloom as they move forward, will their practice be not to necessarily get locked into long-term deals? They gave the contract to Trevor Story, $140 million, but you and I both know this. In baseball these days, that's not a huge contract.
Yeah.
Like if that plays for like second tier, middle of second tier players and not the elite guys. And I think that's the question around baseball that I hear from executives of other teams. Look, are the Red Sox just giving up on the idea that they're going to pay elite talent? The Rafael Devers, who is elite, Xander Bogaerts is elite, Mookie Betts is certainly elite. And, will they actually pursue a free agent like Carlos Correa in the fall? And I don't know the answer to that. And maybe there'll be a special player that'll inspire that from the Red Sox. But that certainly would put them in a different conversation when we talk about big market teams and making moves, because the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies, most of teams that have a lot of means will invest in superstar players. We don't know if Chaim Bloom will.
I see this around the Red Sox sphere as the trade deadline comes up, 3 weeks or so from now. The team isn't willing to go all in. They want to sit back. They want to pretend that they're contending. They really just want to get cheaper and develop the cheap farm system. And my question is, what exactly is wrong with most of that? Isn't part of Chaim Bloom's job to be disciplined, to build the farm system, and then to hold on to that system so it helps you fully in the future? I remember the Pittsburgh Pirates a few years ago going for it and acquiring Chris Archer and trading Glasnow, Meadows, and Shane Baz for him, and we're all laughing at them 3 years later. Isn't it Chaim Bloom's job to avoid that kind of mistake?
Yes. But it also, comparing the Pirates and the Red Sox as apples and oranges to me, because of the different size and, what's possible. If you're the Red Sox, you can spend money and at the same time develop a farm system. I suspect that Chaim, who worked with Andrew Friedman in Tampa Bay, the Dodgers are probably the model of what a lot of big market teams can do. Not only have the Dodgers excelled at player development, drafting, guys at the end of the first round, a 7th, 8th, 9th round, and turning them into really good players, but they've also invested, from time to time in some of the best players. Mookie Betts being an example. The trade market every summer. And so, yes, in theory, if you're running a big market team, you still want to have a pipeline of cheap talent. But as I mentioned before, the question about the Red Sox moving forward is, will they spend big on elite players?
Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider, with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. I do want to ask you about a few deadline targets. We've talked about the Red Sox needing bullpen help. We've talked about maybe the Red Sox not paying a premium for it. So it appears like David Bednar of the Pirates is too expensive. How about David Robertson of the Cubs? What's the asking price on a 37-year-old closer on an expiring one-year deal?
Yeah, not a lot. It might actually be a lot in this moment, but what is someone willing to pay? Probably not much. And that's what I hear from general managers, this morning, that at the moment, the trade market is not really percolating because you got the draft coming up. Teams are really focused on that. There are a couple teams, the Royals, for example, Andrew Benintendi. I think they're talking more than some of the other potential sellers, but we still have some days have to come off the calendar before teams really begin to lock in on that. And I do think whether you're the Red Sox or you're the Yankees, you're the Toronto Blue Jays, you're going to have options develop in the marketplace in terms of relief pitchers. There are going to be a lot of those guys, a high volume number of relief pitchers that become available, and the prices will drop.
Most people want the Red Sox to acquire bullpen help. The spot I want the Red Sox to go after is first base. And the guy I want them to get is Josh Bell of the Nationals. He's hitting over 300. He's on an expiring deal that doesn't block Tristan Casas in the future. He's a switch hitter, so he can single-handedly fix your Dahlbeck, Franchi Cordero platoon problem. How do you see his market and asking price?
That it might be a little bit high. I mean, we saw, and it's interesting. I talked to some executives last week about Chaim and how he does his business, and they talk about how it's pretty clear he slow plays it, right? Last year, he wasn't aggressive, didn't go out and get Anthony Rizzo. I was critical of him, other people critical of him. He waited and waited and waited for Kyle Schwarber's price to drop, made a move, and in the end, that did well. The Red Sox made the playoffs. Schwarber was great down the stretch. I think Josh Bell, because of where the marketplace is and the demand for a hitter like him, it's going to be tough for the Red Sox to land him if they slow play it. I think that there'll be another team that'll step out, potentially be aggressive and grab Josh Bell. And I don't think it's going to take an A-plus prospect to get him, but I think it's going to take a B-plus prospect. And maybe that doesn't necessarily fit the way Heim wants to do things.
Hey, what do you think the Orioles are going to do? Because here the Orioles are. They've won 8 straight. They're only a handful of games out of the last wild card spot. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I also was hoping they would sell and become a couple of easy victories down the stretch that the Red Sox need. What do you think they're going to do? Because if they either stand pat or buy, it makes life tougher for the Red Sox in those late season matchups.
If they stick with the plan that they've been so disciplined with in recent years when they've been tanking, and this year they went into the year with a payroll that was lower than what Max Scherzer's making, then they will absolutely trade guys like Trey Mancini and Jorge Lopez, their all-star reliever, whose value will never be higher than it is right now. You know, Cedric Mullins would be a perfect fit for the Houston Astros, for example. But having worked in Baltimore, you know, at the Baltimore Sun, having covered the Orioles, seeing the fan base get really jazzed and seeing the trajectory of this team, I don't know how they pull the rug out from the major league team. So maybe, you know, if they can, they try to thread the needle the way we've seen the Oakland Athletics and other teams do. Maybe they trade Jorge Lopez, but at the same time acquire a less expensive reliever to try to plug that hole, try to augment in other spots, and focus on guys who value will be maximum. Trey Mancini is a fascinating case because, of course, he's been around longer than anybody on that roster. He's finally getting a taste of success. And he'll be viewed, I think, for some fans as a litmus test or an indicator which way this franchise is going to go. Brady, I think they have to ride it out.
Yeah.
Like, they're playing well enough that they've won 19 of their last 28 games. They're now clearly within range of the other 3 wild card contenders in the American League East, and they have to stay on that path.
Well, they're going to make life tougher for the Red Sox, certainly, if they do. Red Sox already have the toughest schedule remaining in baseball, and if the Orioles remain good, it's going to be that much tougher. Hey, how worried are you about Rafael Devers' back? In the line, it's supposed to be in the lineup again tonight. We'll give the lineups here in a little while from now, but it's supposed to be in the lineup tonight, but he didn't play in 2 of those games against the Yankees. He didn't play last night. How worried are you about this?
Not that worried. You know, I talked to Alex Cora about this the other day. We had the Yankees and the Red Sox on Sunday Night Baseball. And Alex, I think if they hadn't been playing in Tampa Bay on that artificial surface, there would have been a chance that Rafi would have come back last night. You know, he came into the dugout, and I was working the Sunday night's game at the end of the Red Sox dugout, and he came into the dugout after getting treatment for most of the game, and he had the biggest smile on his face. And I gave him a head nod, and he, looked at me and gave me a big grin and a peace sign. He seems like he's going to be okay. It's just something that's kind of nagged at him here lately. And the good thing for the Red Sox is, without him in the lineup, they survived against the Yankees with those 2 great comebacks on Saturday and Sunday. And I know Alex was really happy with how they competed, without Chris Sale, without Devers, without Nathan Eovaldi, and now those guys in the next 4 days will all be coming back.
What are we looking for from Sale tonight here as he takes the mound for the first time in 2022?
Better than he was at the end of last season. When you remember, he was essentially reduced to a 2-pitch pitcher. I think they're comfortable that he's going to be able to mix in a third pitch, that changeup. His pitch count is going to be at around 85. So let's say against the Rays, he averages 15 to 17 pitches per inning. That means potentially he's going to give him 5 innings tonight. Alex Cora will take that. Like, they've had to rely so much on young pitchers in recent years that I think they're just dying for any type of a contribution from a more experienced pitcher. And Sale has that. Now, I am going to be curious to see if his command is better than it was in that last start that he made in the minor leagues last week.
We'll get you out of here on this, Buster. The draft is coming up here soon. Red Sox are picking 24th in the first round, and it's a fascinating spot. I saw Keith Law, your old colleague at ESPN. I think he's now at The Athletic. He had them taking Kumar Rocker, the old pitcher from Vanderbilt, who was picked in the first round last year, didn't end up signing with the Mets. He's been pitching indie ball this year. He's an electric arm. There are some concerns about him health-wise. What would you make if the Red Sox selected Rocker?
Yeah, and that's exactly the range that that one evaluator told me last week is where he's going to fall. This evaluator saw Rocker recently, and he sent it back to me. First off, there was the story that was leaked out by Rocker's representative, Scott Boras, and he told the ESPN that that Rocker had minor shoulder surgery, and the evaluator that I spoke with said, "I've never heard of minor shoulder surgery."
Yeah, yeah,
that is not a thing. But this evaluator also said his breaking ball was excellent, and you remember at Vanderbilt he had the great slider. He said his fastball was 94 to 98, a little bit straight. There are going to be questions about where he is physically, but this evaluator said he's definitely a first-round guy. He's more likely second half of the first-round guy. And if you're the Red Sox and you've got someone who has a tremendous pedigree, he's had success in the past, you feel like he's healthy enough to throw that hard, yeah, why not take a shot at him? He probably is not, based on his health history early in his career, he's not someone we're going to sit here and be talking about when he's 38 years old. But for the next 6-7 years, could be an asset for the Red Sox.
First round of the draft is July 17th, so 5 days from now. And again, Sox picking number 24 overall. Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider, usually with us on Thursdays, but this week is special Tuesday. Buster, we appreciate it, and we will check in again soon.
Brady, I always love talking with you.
Yeah, I love talking to Buster as well. Simply put, one of the best. Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider, and great stuff there as always. And look, I don't always love interviews on these short show days, but we got a couple big things this week. I can't say fully yet what we've got coming down later this week, but I think we got something pretty big here. So I think we're going to get a lot of interviews on short shows this week. We had Benny yesterday, Buster today, TC, Freddie Coleman tomorrow. I spoke with Tom Brendan, the former Catamount Hoops coach. That's an interview is up on our podcast channel. TB is the one who broke to me that UVM is going to be playing Brown in that first game of the year at home. So a lot of good stuff. And then a Thursday, I think we got something pretty big planned. I just don't agree with Buster, though. This notion that the Red Sox are all of a sudden cheap and will they pay for great talent? They will pay for great talent. I think they also want to give themselves flexibility, though, and say, look, the Astros, they let Carlos Correa go. Why Jeremy Pena, in-house option? The Dodgers let Corey Seager go. Even the high payroll teams will let elite talent go if they think they have answers. I think the Red Sox want to get to a point where they have answers, too, and they have flexibility that comes with it. So I didn't agree with that. But there was something that Buster said that I absolutely love. And it was about Chris Sale. I'll tell you what it was next on the Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield, 96.5 W243 Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier, streaming at WDEVradio.com. 90 years of serving Vermont, the friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Facet Wealth.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. Parts of a 77-minute security video from Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, has been leaked online. It was published by the Austin American-Statesman, and we have a clip, but we warn you, it's disturbing. The video shows a shooter firing more than 100 rounds in classrooms. Then, more than an hour later, law enforcement's intervention. It's edited so you don't see children and you don't hear their screams. Texas state lawmakers say they do plan to show this video to parents of victims in its entirety this weekend. A woman and a 7-year-old child have died after a boat with about a dozen people aboard capsized today on the Hudson River in New York City. A nearby ferry helped pull people from the water until emergency workers arrived. In Washington, members of right-wing extremist groups testified before the January 6th committee and talked about former President Trump's call to action at the Capitol. Jason Van Tettenhove is a former Oath Keeper.
This could have been the spark that started a new civil war, and no one would have won there.
Maryland Democrat Jamie Raskin also read parts of former Trump counsel Pat Cipollone's testimony on a meeting at the White House just weeks before the incident.
The meeting has been called unhinged, not normal, and the craziest meeting of the Trump presidency. They proposed the immediate mass seizure of state election machines by the U.S. military.
The Justice Department is also now looking into whether Trump is trying to influence insurrection witnesses. The panel's next public hearing is on July 21st. Meantime, fewer than half of Republican voters say they'd support Trump for president in 2024 if the GOP primary were held today. Politico's Leonard Steinhorn.
What this poll suggests is that the former president hasn't done himself much good since losing the White House by fixating on his stolen election conspiracy theory and going on a revenge tour against Republicans who haven't shown him complete loyalty. He's made himself the issue rather than Joe Biden.
The New York Times poll shows Trump has 49% support. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has 25%. The White House COVID team is stepping up access to shots and testing as the highly contagious BA.5 subvariant spreads. Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Immunity wanes, so it is critical to stay up to date with COVID-19 vaccines as primary vaccines and as boosters where appropriate.
Twitter says it's officially sued Elon Musk to force him to complete his $44 billion promise to buy the platform. The billionaire said he was backing out of the deal Friday. This is CBS News.
Facet Wealth is an SEC-registered investment advisor. They offer customized financial planning for you, not just your assets. Learn more at cbsaudio.com/Jill.
I'm Dr. Lewis Myers, Democratic candidate for Congress. One of the major issues in this year's Democratic congressional campaign has been the emphasis on sending a woman to Washington. And indeed, the media has entitled this the Year of the Woman. As the only male candidate in the race, I understand how important this is to some. But as I speak with hardworking Vermonters throughout the state, their main concerns are on the economy and inflation, our school system, our response to COVID, the war in Ukraine, and about the inability of Congress to address these problems. Over my many years as a physician, I have always endeavored to treat all of my patients, men and women, with the care and compassion we all deserve. And that is how I will serve as your next congressional representative in Vermont. I welcome your vote on August 9th, whether you are Democrat, Republican, or Independent. This ad was paid for by Lewis Myers for Congress. Thank you.
Power outages are frustrating. Lost food in your fridge, a dark house, no AC, or even a fan. You might even lose water if you have a well pump. This is Tara from Green Mountain Solar with some good news. You have options for powering your home no matter what. Green Mountain Solar installs battery backup systems. With a battery backup system, blackouts are a thing of the past, regardless of the weather that comes our way. All with seamless automatic turn on, no maintenance, and app monitoring. Plus, it's whisper quiet. Best of all, battery plus solar is the ultimate in energy independence. Not only are you protected against power failures, you also get to use more of your home-produced solar power right on site, day or night. It all starts with a free site visit with Green Mountain Solar. Our solar advisors will learn about your energy needs, answer your questions, and find the system that's right for you. Reach out today at greenmtnsolar.com.
Think you know sports better than Brady does? Text in with your thoughts at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Show brought to you by Pro Driver Training. That's Pro Driver Training, Vermont's premier truck driver training school, online at ProDriverCDL.com. I love what Buster Olney had to say about the expectations for Chris Sale, right? The full interview with Buster will be available after the show on our podcast channel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and at WDEVradio.com. But our staff has done a great job of pulling this clip that Buster just told us about his expectations for Sale tonight.
Season, when you remember, he was essentially reduced to a two-pitch pitcher. I think they're comfortable that he's going to be able to mix in a third pitch, that changeup. His pitch count is going to be at around 85. So let's say against the Rays, he averages 15 to 17 pitches per inning. That means potentially he's going to give him 5 innings tonight. Alex Cora will take that.
So Buster says he expects him to be better than he was at the end of last season. Also said he thinks that he'll be able to bring that third pitch in there. That is the most important part. Chris Sale needs to be able to be a 3-pitch pitcher. He's not going to blow 98 by everyone consistently anymore. My guess, he'll sit 93, 94. He will touch 96, 97. But from a velocity standpoint, he is going to be more hittable than we had seen him a few years ago. And if you're going to have velocity that is more hittable, you have to have access to all of your pitches. I don't think that all of a sudden Chris Sale is going to come back and be some junker. I don't think he's going to be throwing slop up there. We know the velocity reports from the minor leagues have been very good. But I don't think for 5 or 6 innings you're going to see him pump 97 whenever he wants to. 93, 94, so he better have access to all of his pitches. Last year, I went and looked at the data. He physically threw his changeup, right? Like he physically had 3 pitches, but the changeup was not good. Opponents hit 444 off of Sale's changeup last year. He did throw it, but it got killed when he did. He needs to be able to throw it and know that it will work and know that it will be effective. He needs to get better movement. He needs to get better separation velocity-wise. Alex Cora said his changeup looks like it did a few years ago, not what it looked like last year. That is good to hear also. Chris Sale needs to have the velocity in the tank, the ability to go to it at points, but he needs to be able to command both sides of the plate. He needs the slider. He needs the changeup. He needs to pitch. Just being able to throw hard is not enough for him at 33 years old. I would take Buster's expectations. If he goes 5 innings, I will take that. I don't foresee Chris Sale being dominant for the rest of the year. I told you that too. But I do think he will impact this team. He could start tonight attacking a lineup that is depleted. The Rays are not very deep right now offensively. Chris Sale, this lines up for him. If he goes 5 innings, I'll take 2 or 3 runs over 5 innings in this start. And I want to see him throw strikes. 5 walks his last time out in AAA. That's what caused him to go psychopath on the Woo Sox clubhouse. Have the command, throw strikes, get ahead, and I'll be thrilled tonight. Text on the text line says, I agree, 5 innings is my thought. Red Sox 47-40, 46-40 for the Rays. Sox a half game up. Jaron Duran's in center. Christian Vasquez, the catcher. Devers back at DH, hitting 3rd tonight. Bogarts at short. Verdugo in left. Story at 2nd. Cordero at 1st. Dahlbeck at 3rd. Bradley and right. So Raffy not at 3rd. JD not in the lineup, period. Diaz at DH for the Rays. Harold Ramirez in right. Christian Bethancourt just acquired. He's the catcher. Isaac Paredes is 3rd. Randy Arozarena in left. Ji-Man Choi at 1st. Taylor Walls at short. Yu Chang at 2nd. Brett Phillips in center. Corey Kluber on the mound. We'll see you tomorrow. Go Sox.
This is